Night Shift. Hello everyone, I'm the storyteller. Today, I'm going to tell you a story. A true story about a night shift that I'll never forget. If you're watching this video at night, make sure you're in a safe space. Now, turn down the lights, put on your headphones, and relax. I still remember the first time I stepped foot into that building at night. At first, everything seemed normal, the walls were old, the floor was creaking in some places, and the lights flickered in the quiet hallway. My job is simple, just monitor people coming in and out, making sure no one intrudes. A boring but stable job. But after just a few nights, I realized, something was wrong. First shift. I arrived at the building at 7 p.m. The security guard from the previous shift quickly left after showing me the reception area, security room, and stairs leading to the floors. Before leaving, he said, "Don't worry, it's very quiet here at night, just make sure no one sneaks in." The first hours passed easily. I listened to the radio and occasionally checked the camera screen. Everything is empty, especially the top floor hallway. But around midnight, I decided to check the floors at the manager's request. I chose to take the stairs. The space was strangely quiet. When I reached the 5th floor, the top floor, a strange feeling came. The hallway stretched before me, doors closed on both sides. Everything was absolutely silent. Until I heard footsteps. I turned around, there was no one. My heart was pounding. I checked each door, they were all locked. I spoke up, "Is there anyone here?" There was only silence in response. I went back to the security room and checked the cameras. The hallway was completely empty. Second night. Everything was normal until 1 a.m. I looked at the camera screen and saw the lights on the top floor flickering strangely. It wasn't a technical error, the light flickered, as if something was moving in the darkness. I decided to go check it out. This time, the air was heavier. The musty smell entered my nose. When I reached the end of the hallway, I heard footsteps. But this time, it wasn't an echo. The sound of footsteps came from the storage room at the end of the hallway. I swallowed hard and slowly walked closer. My hands sweat. I tried the door handle, it was locked tight. But there's something, right behind the door. I went back to the security room and checked the cameras. Once again, the hallway was empty. I started to doubt myself. But then, strange phenomena continued to happen every night. Footsteps, shadows passing at the end of the hallway, lights flashing for no reason. One night, I was sitting in the security room when the camera on the top floor suddenly had interference. The screen went black for a few seconds. And when it came back, I saw a figure standing there. The figure is tall and thin, dark, faceless. It stood motionless at the end of the hallway, facing the camera. I jumped up, grabbed a flashlight and rushed to the 5th floor. But when I arrived, there was no one. The hallway is empty. I decided to ask the cleaning staff during the day. A middle-aged man told me that he always avoids the 5th floor. Sometimes, he heard strange noises during the day, but never dared to check. Hearing that, I felt a chill run down my spine. I decided to try something. I brought a tape recorder and placed it in the corner of the 5th floor hallway at midnight. The next morning, I played the recording again. For the first hour, there was nothing but the hum of light bulbs. But around 2 a.m., I heard it. Heavy footsteps. Sometimes near, sometimes far. Then suddenly stopped. There was no voice, no door opening, nothing but those strange sounds. I got goosebumps. Now I know for sure. I wasn't imagining it. 2 weeks later, I had a night that I will never forget. At 1 a.m., the camera screen on the top floor had interference again. This time, when it returned, the figure was no longer at the end of the hallway. It's closer. I try to adjust the camera. The screen flickered again, and when it appeared again, the dark figure was standing right in front of the storage room door. I rushed to the 5th floor. Dark hallway. Feeling stuffy and cold. I shined my flashlight towards the end of the hallway, nothing. But when I turned around, a small noise rang out behind me. I turned around. Nobody. But I know, there's something here. I rushed down the stairs, my heart pounding, sweat pouring down my body. When I checked the camera again, the 5th floor hallway was completely normal again. But I know, things have changed. After that night, I quit my job. I don't know what happened on the top floor. I don't want to know. But I'm sure of one thing, there's something there, lurking in the darkness. The ground floor apartment and the doors that never close. Have you ever lived alone, but felt like someone was watching? You lock the door before going to sleep, but the next morning, it opens. This is my story, a true story. An experience that made me never sleep well again. I'm 36 years old, recently divorced and decided to start over. I rented a small apartment on the ground floor in a quiet residential area. It's not perfect, but the price is reasonable and enough space for me. The landlord said that the previous tenant moved out because he wanted to live closer to work. I didn't think much of it, until strange things started happening. From the first nights, I realized something was wrong. Every night before bed, I make sure all the doors are tightly closed. Sometimes, I even lock the bathroom door. But then, I started to wake up and discovered something strange. The bathroom door was not only unlocked, but also wide open. I thought to myself maybe it was the wind, but no, the windows were all closed, there was no draft. I started hearing small sounds around 2 to 4 a.m. It wasn't a loud crash, but rather small clicks, like the sound of a door latch moving. One night, I placed a small cardboard box in front of the bathroom door. The next morning, it was pushed aside, as if someone, or something had moved it. But the door is still locked. There were no signs of break-in. So, what's going on? I tried to tell this story to my colleagues. She just nodded, politely saying that it was probably because the old building was moving. But these doors open, with a terrifying consistency. Every night is the same. I decided to experiment. I put tape on the door to check if it has moved. But the next morning, the tape was gone. I searched the apartment, but couldn't find a single piece. As if someone had quietly removed it. One night, around 2:15 a.m., I heard footsteps. Slowly. The sound echoed from the hallway. I held my breath and listened. The pulse in my ears was so intense that I could barely hear anything else. I grabbed my phone, planning to call the police, but I didn't want to come across as paranoid. Finally, I decided to check it out. I walked out into the dark hallway, my hands trembling as I turned on the light switch. The light bulb flickered, then went out. I checked the bathroom, opened the closet. There's no one. But I have a feeling. I'm not alone. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay still, straining my ears to listen. The space around me felt dense. It feels like there's something, standing somewhere in this apartment, staring at me in the dark. I'm still alive, but I'm not sure how long I'll be here. How about you? Have you ever experienced anything similar? If so, make sure that when you sleep, all the doors in your house are tightly closed, but are they really? The mysterious house and the curse that cannot be escaped. Do you believe in curses? There are things that cannot be explained by science, things that people can only feel with extreme fear. This is the story of a cursed house where everyone who enters cannot escape intact. Part 1, The Wild House and Rules. In a small town deep in a forest, there is an old house abandoned many years ago. It is said that anyone who lives in it meets a tragic end. Screams in the middle of the night, dark shadows appearing in mirrors, and mysterious deaths have turned this place into a nightmare for the whole town. The villagers all avoided the house, considering it a forbidden land. But there are always curious people, people who don't believe the rumors. And then they disappear. Part 2, People Who Never Come Back. A few years ago, a group of college students decided to go to the house to prove that there was nothing paranormal about it. They brought cameras, flashlights and courage, something they thought would protect them. That night, they live-streamed, joked about the rumors, and explored each room. But then, things got strange. One of them screamed because he saw a woman's silhouette in the mirror. The devices suddenly turned off, even though the battery was still full. Each door slammed shut, preventing them from escaping. The next morning, no one in town saw them again. Only the broken camera was found on the front steps of the house. The remaining videos only recorded gasps, screams and a chilling voice whispering, "You can't leave." Part 3, The Curse Begins. The story of the group of students quickly spread, but there were still brave people who wanted to challenge fate. A young couple, because they did not believe in ghosts, bought the house at an incredibly cheap price. They thought it was all just superstition, until they moved in. Every night, the door knocks regularly at 3 a.m. They checked, but there was no one. One night, the husband saw his wife standing in front of the window, staring into the darkness. When he shook her, she only responded in an unfamiliar voice, "We shouldn't be here." A few days later, neighbors heard screams coming from the house. When they ran in, the door was wide open, but no one was there. There were no signs of life. The couple disappeared, as if they had never existed. Part 4, The Scary Truth. A paranormal researcher decided to learn about the house. He discovered that previously, this place used to be the residence of a wealthy family. But one night, they were all brutally murdered. The youngest daughter was locked in her room, starving and filled with hatred. It is believed that her soul never left. Anyone living in the house is haunted by the curse. They gradually lose their minds, or disappear without a trace. No one knows exactly what happens, just know that once you enter, you will never be yourself again. Do you dare to try? That house still exists. Despite the scary stories, there are still curious people who come. But no one knows if they will come back or not. Do you dare step in? But remember, there are doors that, once opened, can never be closed. Spooky Mirror. Have you ever felt like something was following you, but when you turned around, no one was there? There are horror stories that are not products of imagination, but real experiences of people who have faced darkness. And today, I will tell you about a person who entered a nightmare that he could not escape. The story takes place on a cold winter night. Our main character, a young man named Nam, has just moved into an old apartment deep in a small alley. The rent was suspiciously cheap, but he didn't care. For Nam, it is just a place to rest after tiring days of work. However, from the first night, Nam felt something was wrong. The room had a strange musty smell, and the air always felt cold and confusing. The most special thing is the old mirror hanging right opposite the bed. It does not reflect light like normal mirrors. Instead, the glass was opaque as if covered with a thin mist. The first night, Nam slept fitfully. In the middle of the night, he suddenly woke up by a strange sound, like someone was whispering right in his ear. He opened his eyes, turned his head towards the mirror, and felt his heart stop beating. In the darkness, from the mirror, a shadowy figure appeared. It was a woman, her long, messy hair obscured her face. She stood still, not moving, but Nam could feel cold eyes staring at him. He jumped up, his heart pounding. Blink, that figure disappeared. "I'm probably just dizzy," Nam reassured himself and tried to go back to sleep. But what he didn't know was that this was just the beginning. The following nights, things got worse. Nam kept hearing strange sounds in the middle of the night, scratching on the floor, whispering right next to his ear, and the image in the mirror became clearer and clearer. One time, while Nam was brushing his teeth in the bathroom, he looked up in the mirror and almost dropped his toothbrush. Behind him, in the mirror, that woman was standing right behind him, less than a step away. Nam turned around, there was no one. But when I looked back in the mirror, she was still there, not gone. He panicked and quickly covered the mirror in the bedroom with a towel. But even though it was hidden, the whispers still didn't stop. Nam decided to learn about this room. After many days of questioning, he discovered a horrifying truth: the apartment once belonged to a young woman who had mysteriously disappeared from that very room. Rumor has it that, before she disappeared, she often stood in front of the mirror for hours, as if she was chatting with someone inside. Nam felt cold down his spine. He decided to leave the apartment as soon as possible. But on the last night there, the real nightmare struck. In the middle of the night, Nam was awakened by a shrill sound. Laughter, high-pitched, spooky. He opened his eyes and discovered that the towel covering the mirror had fallen off. He was so scared that he didn't dare move. In the mirror, that woman was walking out. Her hair was loose, her face was pale and her facial features were unclear, only two deep black eye sockets. "Don't go, stay with me," the voice rang out from all around the room. Nam shouted, rushing out the door. But the room door cannot be opened. He felt a cold hand touch his shoulder. Nam escaped. He ran out of the apartment in a state of extreme panic. After that night, he never came back again. The apartment is still there, but no one dares to rent it. There are places haunted by spirits that cannot escape. There are mirrors that reflect more than you think. If one day, you see someone in the mirror staring back at you, make sure it's really your reflection. Please like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next mysterious stories.